Hey, happy Friday, everybody. It's Uncle Gary, Crash Test Uncle. Uh, I am about to, I'm just enjoying, it's kind of the lighting is a little bit dank in here. It looks like I'm in a basement somewhere. Uh, I don't know if y'all saw it, but it might look a little bit like the Gavin Newsom video that he just released talking about how Trump is out to get him and he's a victim of the Department of Justice, same Department of Justice that tried to destroy Trump and invented false narratives. We're talking about false narratives, and so uh, today, anyway, if you saw that video, you know what I'm talking about. The dark, uh, it looked like a hostage video. If you get a chance, again, get Jeff Childers' newsletter, and he links it to X. There's a video of it on X, and uh, and it's just funny. It's rich, but I'm enjoying my coffee. It's been a rainy kind of a. I use a lot of natural lighting in my living room studio here with my coffee table here, my coffee, and I want y'all to know I'm not being held hostages anywhere, and um and I'm okay. But we're going to talk about today something really simple. What is a crash test? I'm going to talk about the why, the what, and the how. Why do we want to crash test? Ideas, philosophies, worldviews. Why? What? What are we crash testing? And and also um, why or how? How we do it? Why, what, and how? And look at my notes. Make sure. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, why do we do it? Why do we crash test? Well, to find out if it survives. You take an idea that you're, oh, well, like a lot of kids today, young college students, they think, for example, communism is better than capitalism. And that's a really important idea to crash test. And so why do we do it? Well, we take the ideology of communism, and there's a lot of examples. There's a lot. Venezuela. Before that, Cuba. Move a little further east, you got the Soviet Union. All these nations together, uh, just starving together because communism didn't deliver what it promised. But you crash test it to see if it survives a crash with reality. And the beautiful thing about history is you can look at history and it'll tell you what happened. You can look and see that under when the Bolsheviks overthrew Russia, the Russian monarch in 1917, it was like they had less than a quarter of a percent, like point zero or 0.25% in any kind of parliament or representation in government, and they overthrew the government, which tells you a small group of radical revolutionaries can destroy a very large, prosperous country like Russia used to be. And you've got your Bernie Sanders, and you got to crash test those ideas and throw them like when I was a kid. I used to go and and take a model airplane that I built and just throw it up against a tree to see what happened. Well, that's kind of like what we're doing here. We're crash testing ideas. We throw it up against the wall, or we drive that idea into a wall to see what happens. What's the damage done? And I wouldn't recommend throwing Shirley and the kids in the car before you run it into the wall because that might be expensive. You don't want to do that, but it's good that's why they put dummies in the seat with little spots on their noggins of places that are they want to protect, and that's why you have airbags on on top sides. And I'm a truck driver. I see wrecks all the time, and I'm telling you, crash testing has saved a lot of lives, and I believe ideologically it does too. So that is the what we're crash testing, or the why. We want to find out if an ideology survives, and the what is basically you want to test everything against reality. everything you believe, and you should really question yourself, your own beliefs. And I remember when I was young, that I don't care if it's a corporation or a organization or a church. I grew up in pretty legalistic fundamentalist church world, and had some experiences that made me crash test that brand of Christianity. And there's a reason I'm not hanging out in fundamentalist churches a lot. I mean, there's some good people who are fundamentalists, and I love them, but I don't ascribe to that level of legalism. I'll give you an example. When I was a teenager, I was in my 1971 Chevy pickup truck, and I had installed a Craig Power Play. For all you old farts, you know what I'm talking about. 8-track player, and I had some. Was it Boston? No, Rolling Stones. I was playing the Rolling Stones that day. I played country music, Americana. Loved Ray Wiley Hubbard, and so I was playing rock and roll that day. I liked music as a kid. I always did. My uncle hated me. He played guitar for Sonny James, Hank Thompson, and old country music, and was a heck of a guitar player. He was an influence on me as a child, as well as Ray Wiley Hubbard and Jerry Jeff Walker, people like that. But man, I'm listening to rock and roll that day, and my Sunday school teacher comes out and rebukes me. You're gonna go to hell listening to that rock and roll. And guys, there were people like Bill Gothard. Some of y'all remember that name. Yeah, if it had a backbeat, I mean, if there was a drum backbeat, it was of the devil because it came from some African tribe, and everybody knows that all the Africans are evil. And I mean, there's some weird presuppositions, and in life as a musician, as a professional musician, most of my life, I crash tested some of the really industrial strength, stupid stuff that I was taught as a kid, and I learned that if you have a drum and it on the upbeat, the snare goes. It's not summoning demons. Now, there's a lot of bad ideas in music, and I listen to a lot of stuff that didn't have the healthiest lyrics, and so I don't try to defend any kind of music that you listen to. But it's like poetry night at the white or at the prison on prison poetry night. Eddie Murphy. I don't know if y'all remember that Saturday Night Live sketch where he's up there, doing a poem that he wrote about his landlord, and which was the reason he was in prison. And he says, "I'll be walking through the night, kill my landlord, kill my landlord. Big dog barking, do he bite? Kill my landlord, kill my landlord. C-I-L my landlord." That was anyway. If you ever saw it, it was the fun. It was the funniest sketch I believe I ever saw on Saturday Night Live. And it's like we get ideas in our head that are unhealthy, and like that's an example of it. It can become a pathology to the point where it's driving you in a weird, crazy direction, and it's and so I'm getting rebuked by my Sunday school teacher for listening to this evil rock and roll, and I will never forget as long as I live. I love that lady. I mean, she came out of the church with this big beehive hairdo, uh, Marge Simpson kind of hairdo, and got into her old Impala and pulled up and said, "I heard y'all listen to that rock and roll. You're gonna burn in hell." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" My very first crash test with the music battle, the music debate of the 70s and 80s. Rock and rolls of the devil. Let's crash test that. Well, some of it is, some of it ain't. But anyway, whatever. The funniest thing happened though. She gets through dressing me down, and I've decided that I need to go back and ask Jesus to forgive me and get saved again or something like that because I've been a bad boy. I listened to the Rolling Stones and I was bad. So I had just about decided that I needed to get saved again, and she's leaving, and she lights up a Marlboro Red, takes a big draw, puts her car in gear, turns on her radio, and as she's driving off, is what I hear. Whiskey River, take my mind. Don't let a memory torture me. You're all I got, don't run dry. Whiskey River, take my mind. And I went, oh, well, okay. And I'll never forget that because I went, some people thought that because music was a certain sound, it was less evil than that music with those drums, evil drums. And Willie had drums too. Devil worship, horrible, horrible. Yeah, I mean, I still laugh about that today. And being a musician, it became the stuff of humor and jokes and mocking as we got older. And even in Christian music, I've been attacked on stage because I was playing devil music and just playing an acoustic guitar. And so weird stuff in the world. But we there's a why to why we crash test these things. We want to find out if those ideologies really are true and test them against a higher reality. And what we're testing, let me look at my notes again real quick. Oh yeah, like I said, we want to test everything against a true reality, and so I began to look at music that way, and the true reality was, you've got to have a higher reality, not just an opinion. And there's a lot of opinions out there today, and I think it's great if you have an opinion, but it's better if you truly have tested your opinion. And so, if you're going to crash test anything, crash test your own assumptions first. It'll help you be more humble because you'll find out you believe a lot of things that you can't really defend real well. And my goal is not to turn you into some knowledge expert on things, but I have great respect. I'm amazed. I love watching Charlie Kirk videos of how he interacted with people in a respectful manner for the most part. But he had a handle on the substance of a debate. I remember him in Oxford, I believe it was. Yeah, he was at Oxford, and there was a professor, and he's debating on things about America and and capitalism, communism, forms of government and stuff that these intellectual people, uh, people in universities think they know more than anybody else. These us little simpleton truck drivers don't know anything. But man, it was just amazing to watch him. And he goes into the Federalist Papers and starts, I mean, just from memory, dissecting all this information. And she didn't even know what the Federalist Papers were. And you can't really debate something you haven't studied. And she did horribly. I'm having to kick my cat. He's trying to eat my microphone cable and cut me off. He's a little. I look at him and I might have to crash test. No, I won't crash test him. He's walking away now. He knows it's about to get real. Um. Anyway, sorry, I digress. He's jealous. But anyway, Charlie was going through these things, and this professor didn't even know, and it was obvious she had no idea what he was talking about. He was so over her head. And you go back, if it's a political thing you're crash testing, you can crash test political ideology, you can crash test philosophy, you can crash test religious things that assumptions that you have, and but you've got to have something to throw it against, like a wall, something solid, immovable. And like Jesus said, a rock, you build your house on a rock, it will not fall. A storm will not, waves can crash into it, but the rock will stand. And that's the way it is for us. If we're going to crash test our ideas, let's do that. And I just wanted to go over today just the simplicity of crash testing. And you don't have to be a intellectual person to develop a healthy to understand what your ontological foundation of your beliefs is and to develop an epistemology of belief, an epistemology of hope, a positive epistemology. And like my friend Greg Boyd said, uh, Jesus or good theology looks like Jesus. And so that's my reality. And if you're a believer, go to the Word of God, go to the Scriptures. People say, "Oh, I just want God to speak to me." Well, then open the book of Deuteronomy. Every chapter begins with, "And the Lord said to Moses, Thus saith the Lord God," and then He spoke. So you want God to speak to you, read Deuteronomy. And then read the Sermon on the Mount and read what Jesus said. Read the red letters in the New Testament, and you'll find he's quoting Deuteronomy and Leviticus and Isaiah and the law and the prophets. And dig into that, not so that you become this big-headed theological nerd, but so that you have a foundation to go, well, this is kind of what I believe, but what did Jesus say about it? And it's not a good epistemology like James Tallarico, who's really a false teacher, who's like, well, Jesus didn't say anything about abortion, so therefore abortion is okay. He was for abortion. He would be like me because I'm a cherub-faced little theological student that is twisting scripture and saying, well, the Bible didn't say this exact words, so that means everything we do is okay. We can mutilate children in the name of gender affirming care, and that's a perverted demonic doctrine. And I hope it gets roundly rejected this November in the election. Whether you like Ken Paxton or not, he's a heck of a lot better than the choice against him. So we're living in a day where if you don't crash test your beliefs, if you don't crash test what you think, you're going to end up just believing anything. And it's like these 20-something-year-old kids, just kids who played video games together, organized an attack on the White House during the UFC fight for Trump's birthday that they had up there. No matter how you feel about that, there's something sick when kids that age are so indoctrinated in hate against Trump, against the government, against the White House, that they were planning a drone attack. And thank God one of these kids' mothers called the authorities because she knew something was up, and she very well may have uh, stopped a terrorist attack that would have killed a lot of people because they literally had this video game mindset. I can see their imaginations working. They were going to bomb with drones the fight area, and they expected people to flee in a certain direction, and they were going to use drones to guide those people down an area where it was kind of restricted, and we're going to have snipers shooting the people while they were trying to escape. In other words, pushing them right into a sniper nest. And if that's not perverted and wicked and evil, there we're living in some weird days, guys. We're living in evil days, and it's not like I'm trying to over spiritualize something, but I'm telling you, politics have gotten spiritual. They've gotten demonic, is what they've done. And you're like, well, don't you? And we're sitting here. Half our pastors won't even say abortion is wrong because, well, that's political. I can't do that. So they're neutered to the point they can't even tell truth to people. And I pray for your pastor before you just bash him for that. But I'm telling you that is not a good place to be. But everybody's afraid. And if you want to raise children that know what they believe, you're going to have to teach them to crash test. I did that with my daughter. We crash tested. What does a conservative believe? Well, and she would say when she's 6 years old, she goes, "Well, conservatives believe that people should have opportunity and that if they're able-bodied that they should work for what they get and they deserve what they get to own property, and that's a good thing. It's successful." And what does a liberal believe? And I'd ask her, and she'd go, "Well, they believe that the government should take care of everybody and we should be dependent on the government." And I said, "Girl, you're developing a pretty good understanding of how this debate is." And to this day, she just turned 27, and she's sharp and growing. And I'm so proud of you, Sydney, because I've watched her fight and battle against things that we just You know, I wouldn't wish on her that just she's faced some hard stuff, and just like everybody I know has gone through difficulty, and you may be going through that right now. I'm telling you, don't get sucked into politics. Don't get sucked into trying to be an expert on things, but crash test your own assumptions. Literally learn about things, not to make other people the enemy, but to understand them. That's why I love my atheist friends, because I understand. I've read the books that they read. I've read, Christopher Hitchens, love that guy. Greg Boyd was gonna debate him, but he died, and they never had that debate. And I would have loved to have seen the two of them debate. I think it would have been a very interesting debate to watch. But anyway, I don't think debate is wrong or bad. And I want to talk about some experiences that I had in the Soviet Union, one at a university and one in a village. And they were quite scary, but it'll help us go on with that theme of crash testing. Sometimes you got to put yourself in hostile territory and speak truth that you've tested against reality, not just, well, this is my opinion. This is what I truly believe. Is there a God? Well, if you believe in God and you believe the Bible is God's word, which a lot of Christians don't really, they just have invented a different kind of Christianity where we've got a new hermeneutic, so we don't have to believe what this says, and it's there's a lot of false teaching, and so if you don't learn to crash test for yourself, you're going to end up in a mess yourself. And so be a student before trying to teach others. That's the how. I mean, you learn how to crash test your own ideas, and then start breaking down other thoughts, ideas, ideologies. And I would love to hear from some of you guys um, on ideas of things you would like to crash test, and let's do it together. I would invite you to do that with me, and we could talk about stuff. And it's not to say, well, the Republicans are better than Democrats. Well, I tend to be more conservative, so I can't vote for anybody that supports this progressive left wing agenda that really is is Marxist and communist in its ideology. And we can talk about that. If you want to crash test capitalism versus um, communism, we can do that. But anyway, I digress. I just want you guys to know I'm about to go out of town. I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks, so I wanted to get this up quick and just tell you guys I love you. And we'll be talking more about crash testing and some of the collisions that I had in the Soviet Union that were interesting, and we'll go from there. But what is a crash test? Well, we just throw it against the wall to find out whether it lives or doesn't. See what happens. And it's a good idea to start with yourself and crash test your opinions and your thoughts. And maybe as we get older, we will have a better understanding of people who we're trying to have a conversation with. That's the goal. Love y'all. Y'all have a good one.